which
Check, check.
it
Check, check. Traffic. Turn that arrow.
I know, you have to be proud.
Oh, yeah.
That you always have a layer. I would.
But
Guess what David was doing while I'm trying to get out the door?
Can you turn the water on? I'm installing the flume.
Oh my gosh. Any other time, just not right now.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
for sure.
You didn't hear anything. You didn't hear anything from Alfred.
I'll get it later.
No.
Thank you. Family sequel.
Most meetings closed.
At the stoplight. Okay.
Yeah, we got some, he does, usually does here and then. got rid of it.
Kind of, yeah. He says we can go on with that. The first part is all. Anyway. Call to order the Rainbow Municipal Water District Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Can I have a roll call, please?
President Hamilton,
Here?
Vice President Mack,
Here.
Director Hoffman.
Here.
Director Irvine.
Here.
And Townsend Smith is absent. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's the band.
Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda?
None from staff.
Anything from the directors? None? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as published?
No move. Second.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Irvine. Public comment. Any person may address the board.
Vote on that.
Pardon?
Vote on the.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. I was in a hurry. Any person may address the board at this time on any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Rainbow Municipal Water District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report and action at a subsequent board meeting. As to the matters on the agenda, if a request to make a public comment is received, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. I have received no requests for speaker comments. Do we have any people online? Only staff? Okay,
I've received none.
okay. Item 7, committee meeting summaries, Budget and Finance Committee.
Today.
Flynn.
President Hamilton, may I please have a vote on approval of the agenda, please?
Oh, we did.
Oh, I apologize. I was walking around.
I skipped it and then
I'm sorry.
Communication and customer services.
There we are. Okay, the Communications and Customer Service Committee met last week. First item that we reviewed. Here we go. Okay, here we go. We went over the revised strategic communications plan, gave a brief history of where. It's okay. Of where we started from our discovery, which we began last year, our development, documentation. The committee reviewed in February and gave us some wonderful feedback. We adapted the plan to that feedback and sent it for approval, and they approved the plan. So that is one of our agenda items later on today. Spring events, we gave an update. Last Thursday, I had the pleasure of attending a career fair at Vallecito Elementary School and spoke one-on-one to students about careers in the water industry. It was more centered on niche careers, so I got to give background on what I do at the district and how it helps us out with communication. We have a community job fair hosted by Bonsall Unified School District this Saturday at the Bonsall Community Center. Avocado Festival is coming up in April. The Wildfire Symposium is in May at Fallbrook Union High School. And then we have 2 field trips scheduled for May. A collaborative effort with the city of Oceanside, where we will be taking 7th graders and 10th graders to the San Luis Rey wastewater treatment plant.
Wow.
The newsletter for the month of March featured information on Fix a Leak Week and these brand new how-to videos that we shot in-house with our crew and were edited in-house. They're short, about 1 minute, 30-second videos that are available on our website. You can click on them on the homepage. If you have time, please check those out. Information on our WaterWise for Life tips on spring planting, suggesting your irrigation for the summertime, and rebates for turf replacements are met. We gave information on our collaborative efforts with our 4 local water agencies. It was a press release we issued in the Village News, and it just gave background on how we're going to be working together for emergency planning efforts, sharing resources. More info on the Avocado Festival and an opportunity for high school students to volunteer with us at the booth. I reached out to the Career Center at Bonsall Unified, and they're going to be supplying us with a few high school kids to help us out. And we're continuing with the 4th grade water booster contest. 2 articles in the Village News. Nice photo there from when EMWD came to visit, and then the redistricting information. And new for this month, we added a new agenda item about legislative communications. This one is regards to the advanced clean fleets regulation, and we agreed to move forward with that with a letter, and Jake will touch on that a little bit later on. That was it for our committee. Yes.
Question for you. In the years past, CSDA always collects money and it's for scholarship. And from what I remember, we never seem to get any people from Bonsall or Fallbrook. Is there, a reason why?
Are you speaking about the video contest that
Yes.
they have?
Mhm.
Those ones, we have reached out to the schools. We just haven't had much response with them, but it's definitely something I can follow up with the Career Center. If we can reach out to those art classes to get application.
Yeah, I mean, it's free money. Thank you.
The videos are well done.
Thank you.
If you'd like, I can touch on budget and finance and
Okay.
E&O real quick. Because there are quite a few items from those committee meetings that are here. Both items A and B on the action items went to the Budget and Finance Committee. That's the GFOA award and the audit. So and the committee moved those forward, recommend for approval. The E&O committee, big item there was the 5-year capital improvement plan. We reviewed that with the committee. The committee also recommended approval without changes. So the board will see that today and able to provide feedback, and that'll be a multiple month process, but it's kind of one of the first things we want to get through. But those are the 3 big items from the 2 committees.
Okay. Consent calendar. There are 3 items: approval of the February 25th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes, appointment of Konstantin Shilkov. I'll get it wrong, so just bear with me. As a staff alternate to Engineering and Operations Committee, and notice of completion and acceptance of the West Lilac Rancho Amigos and Dentro de Lomos pump stations. Do you have any objection to approving this as a group? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Mack. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. My tongue is twinkled. Action items. Presentation acceptance of award received from the Government Finance Officer Association for the fiscal year 2024-2025 operating and non-operating budget.
Yes, and I'll turn this over to Constantine, but this is something we have the GFOA review our budget every year, and I'll let Constantine share with you the results.
Yes, it's actually, thank you. It's an honor to receive this award. It's the highest award that presented to government agencies from Government Finance Officers Association. And this is for the budget that we put for this current fiscal year, 2025. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank our finance department and all other departments and leadership that are working hard and putting that budget together. Really, this award shows that our dedication to transparency and following the GFA requirements and following and showing that we committed to excellence and transparency in accounting. So it's really a great award to receive, and we're looking forward to continue doing a great work and receiving the award for the next budget that we're currently working on. So really thanks to the team and the staff.
Thank you. Set a high bar for you, don't they?
Yes, it's really great.
Question for you is, do we get a plaque or a certificate for that?
Yeah, we get the plaque each year. It's like a medal, and we'll stick it on the wall. And then everybody who come in and the public, they can, and it's hanging on the wall in the front.
lobby?
In the lobby, they can see every year. We never missed a year, so we don't get it. Yes, I'll make sure we continue
Don't
getting
let it
that.
happen on your watch.
Yeah,
Yes.
Excellent.
thank you.
Yep.
Presentation and acceptance of the annual audit report fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. I think you're still in the hot seat, right?
We have from LSL, our auditor, Nelsina. She'll be doing a PowerPoint presentation, how audit went on the audit findings.
Any questions or discussion?
Do we have Nelsina on the line?
That's not it.
Okay, so we have a presentation. Thank you.
Yes, I am here. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll wait for the slide to be presented. Perfect. As mentioned, I am with LSL. My name is Nelsina Shirk. I am the Senior Manager on the district's fiscal year 2024 financial statement audit. In your packet, you will see financial statements, the report on internal control, and the audit communication letter. Next slide, please. So the scope of the audit at a very high level, we audited the financial statements over the fiscal year June 30th, 2024. So that reflects the period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Next slide, please. So the scope of the engagement, this lays out the process, which is a pretty lengthy process and goes from June 2024 through now as we're presenting to the board. In June, we do our interim field work. This is where we are examining the processes within the district and we do our risk assessment. This involves looking over the district's processes for how they are processing their cash receipts, cash disbursements. In essence, we're making sure that there are checks and balances that are in place. And if we have any recommendations, we will provide those at that time. Then our year-end fieldwork is where we are testing the account balances. Testing the balances include confirming cash and investments, testing bank reconciliations, testing capital asset activity. We are really looking to make sure that what we would expect to see is actually occurring. We also look at revenue and expenses to see that they are occurring and being recorded in the correct period. Next slide, please. So we issued an unmodified auditor's opinion on the financial statements. This is typically referred to as a clean report. There were no findings in non-compliance with laws, regulations, or grant agreements. No significant deficiencies noted in internal controls. However, we did identify one material weakness that related to an error in the calculation of depreciation in the current year, as well as prior years. That ranged from 2020 to 2024. This rose to the level of a material weakness due to the dollar amount and the magnitude of the error occurring in the current and in prior years. Next slide, please. There were no going concern doubts. Management was really easy to work with. They are dedicated to what they do, so no difficulties encountered with management, no issues in getting information, and any estimates were reasonable based on information that was provided. Next slide. And I'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
And Constantine, maybe you want to touch on kind of how we handled the depreciation calculation.
And I would like to add on the internal control issue on the depreciation error. It was really a clerical error because depreciation on the assets were done in Excel manually, and it wasn't a formula issue that rolled from one year into another. So the way I'm looking that it needs to be corrected, and going forward, we're going to put all our assets into our ERP system so depreciation can be calculated automatically and not manually. The way we'll avoid any labor-intensive calculation work for all asset depreciation in Excel, and it should be done automatically. It'll be fast and accurate. I'm looking to implement that in our current ERP system.
Curious on the depreciation, were we talking, was it vehicles? What was it? What was the items?
It was across all assets because it was a formula that from top row all the way down. And so it affected all assets. And I think net effect was about 4 million.
So we're not talking actual dollars, but basically, we value our assets at a certain number, and instead of calculating it straight line, there was an error in the calculation, so it was misstated by
just a recording error, not actual dollars. That's why we still have a clean opinion. This is just internal control.
So we corrected the actual formula. That was the short-term fix, but what Constantine's saying now going forward, we're going to actually drop all the assets into the ERP system, set up the depreciation. So as we add things and that, it just automatically depreciates and we don't have to do any of these manual calculations and things anymore.
I was wondering why it wasn't caught last year. The year before.
That's a great question.
The year before.
Yeah.
Question.
I think, well, Yeah, internally, I
eyes.
think we, nobody caught it. And unless you really dug into what those
I
formulas,
just
you
mean
you may. not.
whoever does our books. I was,
Well, it would be the
Yeah.
auditor.
Mhm.
Did we change auditors? And is that why we found it?
No,
Or
we've had them for a couple of years.
maybe she could comment on that.
Yeah.
On Lisa's question.
Although I think she's new too.
Yeah, so I am new to the process, or to at least the district audit. What really, I can't speak to what happened in the past, although I do know that we don't test everything 100%. Some things are done analytically, and it may not have reached the threshold. But what really took it into our light this year was that it increased, doubled from last year. So last year was about 3.4 million, and this year it was 6.9 million or 6.8 million. Or what the error, what it was uncorrected, which it is appropriately corrected on the financial statements this year. So that's what made us dig into it deeper.
I'm just glad it's fixed.
Yeah.
And since we are on a straight line depreciation, actually year over year, depreciation expense should not change dramatically. It should not double. So that was really.
Red flag.
It is.
Yeah, red flagged it, yeah.
It could increase a little bit if you're adding more assets on the books and you have more depreciation, but it should not be year over year, big difference.
And we did add a lot of assets last year.
Last year.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Mhm.
So I think fresh set of eyes though, didn't hurt. Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, action item, we're asking for the board to accept the audit as presented.
I do have a question relative to the financial report.
Okay.
I take it it's late. There's a statement in the financial report that says the state requires us to report within 6 months of close of business.
Right. And so, yeah, we
It's a little
got,
late.
yeah, we got an extension both from GFOA and the state controller's office.
And I can understand why we
Yeah.
got the extension, but technically we're
Yes.
behind the power curve today.
Yep.
Okay.
And to chap on that, going forward, we're planning to do our audit preliminary work in May to start early and to have a final field work in September and to finalize everything sometime in October so that it doesn't go beyond and go
The
to
end of the
next
year.
year. Yeah, it should be done.
Okay.
In less than 6 months.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I submit.
Lisa Hoffman
second.
moves to approve the audit as accepted, as presented, and Director Mack seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Consider approval of the strategic communication plan.
I'm gonna hand this to Carlene. She'll.
So I'm very excited to finally be approving the final draft, what we hope is the final draft of the strategic communications plan. We have been working on this plan for over a year. The board has had a communications and customer service committee in place for well over a decade. And communication was identified as one of our strategic focus areas when we created our first strategic plan back in 2015, and it continued on with the update in 2020. But this is the first time we've had a complete comprehensive strategic communication plan for this function. We added a dedicated staff member in mid 2023, which was kind of our opportunity to say, okay, now we need some formal guidance on how we're going to operate the communications program going forward. So our plan development stages, as Amanda alluded to in her communications committee update, we had a discovery workshop in early last year that included stakeholders, including board members, the communications committee members, and staff from all levels of the district, people who interact with our community and our ratepayers in different capacities, all provided input. So we had both internal and external stakeholders providing input into who we talk to, what are they interested in, what do they care about, what are the key messages we want them to hear and believe, about the district. So that was kind of the information gathering phase. And then the longest part of it was
kind of getting all of these details together into the formal documented plan. We did a formal page by page read through of the plan at the February Communications Committee meeting. And they provided a lot of feedback that was incorporated into this final draft that that Amanda put it into sort of the designed format rather than the draft format. So the plan components include guiding principles, which are really an adaptation of our existing core values that were identified when we did our when we identified our core values back in 2015 with our first overall district-wide strategic communications plan. So these are just adapted to the communication principles. So one of the key things to remember is that this is a team effort, right, along with the the teamwork core value. This isn't something that's just for our internal staff. The board, committee members, and our staff at all levels all are part of making this plan a reality. So it's definitely a team effort. The plan components include a high-level executive summary, sort of why are we doing this plan? It's important because whether we are intentional about our communications or not intentional about our communications, we're always sending a message. So it's better to do that in a way where we've thought ahead of time about what message we want to communicate. We have the guiding principles, a brand and mission statement. Really, we kind of incorporated in the tagline that we've been using for about a year, which Amanda thought of last year for the Avocado Festival, which is helping our community grow since 1953. It was aligned with our 70th anniversary, and it kind of incorporates that nuance of growing in terms of our agricultural roots, as well as growing community members as the evolution of the population of our district evolves. And then the identification of our target audiences and the overall district narrative. So our target audiences, we have it broken down into 3 levels: our primary audiences, secondary and tertiary audiences. So internal audiences, board, committees, employees, these are all primary, as well as our residents and agricultural customers that are very important primary audiences. The external audiences are the county, other local agencies, homeowners associations that do business with us, local officials, our local media, neighboring agencies, and our neighboring tribes. And then the tertiary audiences that are still important, but at the next level is our contractors, developer partners, other community groups, parents of students in the district, real estate agents, and other water industry groups. This is intended to be sort of a guiding document so that staff members have a documented alignment in terms of what we want to be saying, the channels that we want to use to deliver the messages, what our goals and objectives are. We will update the communications toolbox and our performance metrics annually as we go, as well as an annual content calendar. So we will build the content calendar every year based on the principles, the audiences, and the key messages that are identified in this plan. And as we built the plan, we were kind of implementing as we went. So we didn't wait to start some of these things until we had a formal written document. We've been doing these things all year long. So Amanda has done incredible school outreach, as she mentioned, going and speaking to classes. We even had Ahmed and Chad speak to the high school classes. We've had field trips come here. She's partnered with other agencies so that now we're going to have a field trip to the Oceanside, wastewater treatment plant, which many of our customers directly benefit from. We've also started filming and scripting how-to videos. So we want our video content to be very informative. That was previewed by the committee this month. We have new website resources, and we'll be presenting some kind of a facelift of our website in the near future as well in alignment with this. And we've been really promoting the water use efficiency programs and workshops that are available through our other partners like Met and Eastern, so that we don't have to use our very, very limited budget and limited resources to create all those programs that someone else has already done for us. So So that's the high level overview of the plan. Are there any questions before the board takes action?
No questions? No discussion?
Just a
Right.
quick question. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, it just looks great. I've already seen it, but
I was just gonna say under audience's primary, what's the difference between a ratepayer and a metered non-ratepayer?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have many people who live in the district who don't directly write us a check every month for their water bill. Their water bill is paid by their HOA, or if they live in a condo or something like that, or they're a renter and it's paid by the homeowner. So they benefit from our services. Certainly, our rates still impact them indirectly, but they're not writing a check every
Got it.
month.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I know that there's been everything looks really nice. There's a tremendous amount of work that went into this and really Carlene and Amanda, a lot. I think that was the best part too, gathering so much input from everybody. I think that from that very first workshop that we had last February, and then really throughout the year, all that input, I think, directly impacted everything that's in here. And so it wasn't just them, but man, they spent a lot of time and effort putting this thing together. And I think it's really it's going to be a great document to guide us in how we communicate. We've already, I think, risen the bar on how we communicate, even just since I've been here. And I know it was happening even before that. And this is just, I think, another step in that direction. So really appreciate their efforts.
is there an accreditation process for us? Have you heard of accreditation before? Like it's in schools. So like it's all the stakeholders that get together and put together something like this and it takes
We don't have
everyone.
We don't have
Okay.
a process, formal
Okay.
process like
But
that.
that's what it reminds me of. There's so much work that goes into this.
There it
This-
is. And really like Jake said, the key was getting the initial input from people. I mean, we have one little lens from our small department, but it's the meters staff that are speaking to people who are, who are angry when we're there to shut off for non-payment. There's, the people that come and speak at our board meetings. There's the interactions that you have when your constituents engage with you. Like every stakeholder has a different type of interaction with our target audiences. So that was really important step.
And what I like about the plan is the fact that we recognize that and we look at staff as being all part of the marketing communications effort.
Yeah.
So a meter reader gets stopped on the street, he actually has information in his truck that he can provide with to a ratepayer, or take the information and direct it to the right source. So it's a team effort, not just a departmental effort.
Exactly. And Amanda has done an amazing job of having that ongoing communication with those departments and customer service and meters. And when they get questions related to a specific theme, creating rack cards or easy resources for either staff to follow as talking points on the phone or as they're interacting, or something they can hand a ratepayer in the field that has, basic answers to some of the common questions, and then a resource if they need to call the office and get more information.
Question, Carlene, who decides the content for the newsletter? How does that content get built? Is that one person? Is that a?
No, it's also a group effort. So we have the communications committee meeting every month, and Amanda presents kind of what was in the current edition of the newsletter and what's planned for future months. And so that's where the committee can provide additional input if they think that there's a topic that needs to come up. If there's been, chatter on social media about a certain topic. I know there's a lot of water issues have been in the national news recently. So those kinds of things they'll bring up. Oh, people might have questions about fluoridation in our water or about our water resiliency in case of wildfires, because those have been hot topics. So
At the end of the day, since there could be lots of different topics, who makes the final decision in terms of what?
we take
needs-
committee
Yeah.
input, and Jake really.
Yeah.
And Jake,
Yeah.
you kind of final.
Yeah, usually they put together the whole newsletter and then I tell them I need the whole front for a different story.
Story.
And they- But
And we have limited space. So sometimes we'll be like, that's a great idea, but we don't have room because this other issue is
Right.
more timely. And so we'll need to push that to a
Yeah.
future month.
a lot of times too, I mean, even just out of these board meetings, topics will come up and so we get suggestions from that too, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I was going to
So-
say, like, I've been paying very much attention to my water bill, which I never looked at before. For about 6 months, but, like I went to the website, it does have FAQs, you know,
Mhm.
but there might be new questions that come up that customer service is constantly getting this month. So something, I don't want to read paragraphs. I just want bullet points, right?
Mm.
So just answering like, what are those questions that everybody's having right now? And then it could be just 4 questions, you know, that
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of people have been asking about.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of input that Amanda gets from them on a regular basis and that we want from the committee when we have the monthly. committee.
I just don't know if people are going to go to the website. They do.
That's
read the
only
water
one of
bill.
the resources we have. We
Yeah.
also have printed rack cards for when people in the field have questions.
Okay.
Customer service has it available, has talking points available. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's one of many.
But that would, I mean, if you're suggesting that you peel off a couple of those FAQs and pop those on to
For
the,
that month of
Yeah.
what it was.
that,
Mhm.
that would be an
Yep.
idea that might want to bubble up through the committee.
Committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe this is an action item. Well, we have more.
So I'm-
Drum roll.
Any other
We've all-
discussion or questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Hamilton. All those in favor? Aye.
Do we have to wait for Matt?
These 3 ayes have it.
Good.
More.
Ayes have it.
Okay.
Quorum.
I abstain. No, I'm kidding. Thanks, Reese.
Thank you.
Don't be a pill. Review and consideration of the 5-year capital improvement project plan.
Yeah, and I think we have a presentation here. I'll kick off these first few slides, just kind of giving an overview, and then I know Chad's got specific projects and things that we're going to go through. But this is our, every year we put together a 5-year capital improvement plan. So it lists all of our anticipated projects over the next 5 years. Ultimately, what gets into the budget is the first year. The first year of the capital improvement plan is really what ultimately we're asking for board adoption, which will happen in a future month. We're shooting for May, at the end of May, adopting the budget and the first year of the capital plan. But want to review that with you today.
You know, the 2 tables are different than what was.
Okay. Well, the tables and the correct tables in the, well, it's all the same numbers, same projects. It's just the formatting. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, you can go next slide. Okay, so anyways, just wanted to give kind of a high level overview to start on the CIP. And so this first slide, this shows the totals for the 5-year. And really what we did here, wanted to kind of do a check-in. We presented the 5-year CIP last year. Where do we looking back at last year and then the subsequent years, kind of as a total. And so you can kind of see here, we had started the year last year at about 6.7 million. The end number, this was reviewed at the mid-year budget, was 8.2 for this year. But as we go out, obviously that has some ripple effect in the out years. But basically over the 5 years, what we see is, we started with about a $43.5 million 5-year capital improvement plan, and we're about that same level. So kind of on target with what we'd come up with last year. Not a whole lot has changed, although some things have, bring projects up and bring projects back as, kind of as priority shift. But overall, the numbers are very much in line with what we had presented last year. So,
Jake, is the number for this year, is it the orange because of detachment?
no, there was a couple things that occurred during the course of the fiscal year. One was the pump station project. We had a additional budget need on that project. We added the Gopher Canyon pipeline replacement project. That was an emergency project that we that we did. So really, it was more adjustments to existing projects that kind of drove some higher costs. Yeah. But like you can see, yeah, as you can see over the, when we're looking, we kind of, last year we did a really deep dive into this 5-year financial plan. And that's really kind of our focus, is kind of staying on track. And that's why I kind of, this was kind of me going, I want to check in on how we're doing. Overall, we're in good shape, because we've, even though those things were added, there were actually things in the out years, and we can go through some of those things. Some of the things related to the County Water Authority that actually dropped off, right? So some of those things we had in year 2 and year 3 that actually are expenses that aren't going to occur. So I guess that's the point. We might add $1 million here, but obviously overall the adjustments are about where we intended to be. So that was kind of the purpose. Next slide. And so this is kind of the makeup of the CIP, and we dropped these into several categories, 6 categories, and just kind of what type of project they are. And you can see the overwhelming majority of our projects are rehab and replacement. So these are rehabilitation of pump stations, replacement of pipelines, primarily, other district facilities, makes up about 85% of that total CIP. The others, the operational efficiency improvements, makes up a decent percentage, but everything kind of pales in comparison to the rehab and replacement. So I think that reflects where we want to be, right? We know that we've got pipeline replacements we need to do. We know that we have aging pump stations, aging infrastructure. Also, that includes the tank recoats. The tank recoats are in there. That's also rehab. But just wanted to give you kind of a holistic view of what the CIP looks like. So yeah, mainly rehab and replacement. On the wastewater side, not a lot of change here. Had a limited number of projects through the first couple of years of the CIP, mostly related to replacement of some backup generators and things like that. And the majority of that was actually grant funded through a grant we received from the EPA, or through the EPA. So that's the majority of it. And in the out years, although there's some fairly significant numbers there, what you'll see on the next slide is it's primarily driven by development and growth. So as these developments occur, and there's quite a few that are in process right now, fairly large developments that that all are going to feed to our existing collection system. That's really a key driver to a lot of these projects. So that's what you see here. So as those projects move, that's kind of how these larger projects will move too. So we had them out I think originally we had them out in year 4 or 5. We went ahead and moved them forward, and it still looks like this could be reality. You never know with these developments. Looks like they're hot for a while, and then they might go away for a decade. You just never know, depending on economic cycles and things like that. But this is our best guess now. It actually looks like it could come to fruition. I'll actually talk a little bit about that in the general manager comments. But so that's the wastewater totals. And again, overall, the number about what we thought it would be, right? About the same as what we presented last year. And again, this is just showing the drivers on the projects, and you can see the majority of it is development or growth. It's capacity driven. We do have a decent amount of repair and replacement. That's mostly relining pipelines, some updates to some lift stations and force mains and things like that drives some of the CIP, but a lot of it is growth driven. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, unless anybody has any questions on kind of the high level, Chad's going to get into a lot of the year 1 projects, the things that we'll be obviously asking the board to approve.
And I just had the realization as Jake was speaking, I said only the table was changed, but I did rearrange the slides. So I'm going to do my very best, because this was given a month ago, and this is okay. It's not the one I practiced for today, but we're gonna do that. Got to be able to just roll with it. All right, so we're going to focus on our year 1 projects. It is going to show a snapshot of the 5-year plan. So this is projects that we know are coming up in the 5-year as we do our engineering and operations, budget and finance, and special board meeting workshop coming up in May I believe. This is where we're really going to dive in deep on this and want this to be ironed out. And then again, focusing on that year one projects.
And all these tables are in your packet, so if you can't read it up on the screen, it's,
And that's where you would notice the difference. We've broken it down by the project type as in those graphs, whereas this is just kind of more of a blanket general direction. So the order is,
Why is his chart on the screen different than ours?
the presentation is unfortunately not in the IT folder. So this is what was given to E&O.
yeah. We updated the table just to organize it by the project drivers rather than just a random list of projects. So that's why it looks different. It's the
Yours
same
is
list of
organized.
projects, it's the same dollars.
Yes. All right, so here's our year one projects. All right, so starting with the headquarters, moving on with some design work on both building 1 and building 2. These are tenant improvements. This is not focusing on a full rebuild. This is ongoing work.
Does that include the asbestos mitigation?
That building 2 would have an analysis done for that, yes.
Okay.
Yes. The isolation valve installation program, this is an ongoing program. The goal here is to replace all valves within the district. We have some that we know are in the broken open or broken closed positions. Some when we go to operate them in an emergency situation, it breaks them. So this is what this is, and this forecasts it all the way out for 5 years. Goal here is once we're done, this drops off. This is no longer a CIP program until many future
The
years
next
out.
time.
Next time, I hope to be long retired by the time this comes back as a project. The Camino Del Rey waterline relocation. So this is, again, this is a County of San Diego CIP. They are realigning sections of Camino Del Rey, which has impacts to existing district infrastructure, mainly the water sections. The county is working on this with their design engineer, who we happen to have the same agreement with. So our drawings will be incorporated in with them. If the board will recall, this goes back a few years now. There are some issues with easements and right-of-ways and prior rights, and we have documents from the 1800s. Staff and county are still sorting through those details, but we know the water line does have to move. It's just where is it moving to? So that's ongoing with the County of San Diego.
Chad, can you just elaborate a little bit on that project? I know you got a lot to go through, but so what is it exactly that San Diego County Water Authority wants to do, and how does that affect us? Are you trying to retire some existing older lines and migrate them into?
And I think I might have misspoke. It's not the Water Authority, it's the San Diego County of San Diego.
County, okay.
That's a road improvement.
Yeah, so what this road is subject.
They want to raise the road so it doesn't flood.
Correct. It's subject to annual flooding.
Okay.
It also has some line of sight issues that they're trying to alleviate. And by doing so, it either makes our water line extremely deep and or puts it way out into the roadway or right where they're going to install a new storm drain.
Okay, so this is primarily driven on that roadway
Correct.
modification.
Correct. And so Jake, it's like 1,600 linear feet of our water line that's affected
Plus or minus. yeah.
within their
Quarter
project
mile
scope.
or-
So these aren't improvements per se. This is just relocating those water lines to try to adjust where the new road alignment.
Correct. But in doing so, we will get a section of new water line, which counts as a replacement project. So it's kind of.
So it's and the only question I have is you've got 25,000 in the budget. And based on all whether prior rights and everything else.
Yes.
Who ends up paying for it?
Yeah, that's to be determined. What we've got going right now, because we had a budget, we established a budget last year. So this basically just gives us the budget room to move through
This is planning and.
yeah, some alignment studies. We're gonna do some alignment studies. The thing with the county, this is driven by them. They were originally supposed to start construction this summer on this project, and they have a lot of issues to work through. They're looking at potentially end of 26 is the latest schedule they gave us, and that sounded like they had more than that to deal with, to be quite honest. So it is going to be driven out probably a couple of years, and we do have to work out the prior rights issue. So yeah, more to come on this one, but it's honestly, it's a pipeline we would probably like to replace anyways. So that's the benefit of it, but it is driven by the county project. So
And if I'm correct, just for clarification on prior rights, if we have prior rights, they end up paying for all our work.
correct.
So
So yeah, the
It's a
future
very
numbers,
important determination. That's why we're back to the eighteen
the
nineties.
future numbers could be very low or very high, depending on those prior rights. Yes,
Okay, thanks, Chad.
absolutely. Eagles Perch Water Pipeline Improvement. This is a section of existing water line that currently is cutting through many private homeowners' backyards. And so the goal of this project is to bring it down to Camino del Rey and loop the water line around. We'd add some fire hydrants, relocate people's water services. This water line has also been prone to several breaks in the past year. So this is a great project for the district and the homeowners that are affected by it. The manual transfer switch project. This is near and dear to my heart because this project for many years kept getting postponed, and here it is in the year one. And unless the finance manager tells me otherwise, in a month or two, this project is happening. So we had originally 5 sites to do. We're down to only 3 left, and this is what this project is encompassing. And this is taking, you can see on the far left that photo. This is now plug and play for an emergency backup generator. So staff would go out there and they can install the generator in a power outage situation. Currently, they have to go into the high voltage electrical cabinet, throw the breaker down. They have to wear a fireproof suit to do so. This is anything but plug and play in its current state, and then vice versa, throw the breaker back on when power is restored. So it's very dangerous. We want to avoid that with these manual transfer switches. The tank maintenance project. So this is a project that is conducted by a third party, USG Water. We just met with the finance department, I believe about a week ago, and now each tank that the district has now has its own project number. So as these tanks, currently we are working on the Hutton tank and the Rainbow Heights tank. So that's why we have the monies in here shown. As these tanks get recoded, you're adding life to that capital asset. And so we're going to start capitalizing those. And where it says project number to be determined, the next time we present this to the board, it's actually going to say, for example, the Hutton tank with a project number and its actual dollar value. So we can now capitalize this work because again, we're extending the life of that capital asset.
So this is something that's when even more so when you look at that 5-year window where you said, hey, our overall 5-year CIP is about the same. This is actually something we took from historically. It was placed in the operating budget, but the reality is we're extending the life of these facilities, so it should be capitalized, it should be depreciated. And so what we're doing, that cost is still the same, but now it will show up in our CIP just for because it's not really maintenance. This is rehab. And so that should be capitalized. So that's that little bit of change in just how we document things, but I think it's more correct. Yeah.
The La Cañada pipeline replacement. So this project is multifaceted. We want to reduce the pressure on the project. That is a current year project, the 2 pressure reducing stations. And then here's the replacement of 4,000 linear feet of pipeline. Again, La Cañada, you can see 8 main breaks in the last 5 years. So by reducing that pressure, we hope to eliminate many, if not all of the main breaks, definitely reduce the magnitude of the breaks, and then ultimately replace the pipeline. So that, the pipelines we install today, what we're aiming for is between 50 to 100 years of life. We don't want to go back to these anytime earlier than that. This project got added quite late. This is a state of California requirement where for every heavy equipment vehicle we purchase, a 3/4 ton or larger has to be offset with an electrical vehicle. And the fleet is aging, and the operations department who heads that up is looking at replacement of some of our larger vehicles. And so with that, we're going to be forced to buy an electric vehicle. And with that, you need charging stations. So this became a project out of the blue.
Is this
An unfunded mandate.
Yeah, I have lots of questions.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. I thought I read that the current administration got rid of the mandate for EV vehicles.
I'll turn that over to Jake.
Yeah, they aren't able to just get rid of it. This is a CARB mandate. They did come out as, I think they're putting pressure to potentially, kind of undo some of these mandates. Thus far, state of California has kind of held firm, and they're going to continue to mandate this. They feel like they've got the power to do so. That's That's what's been put out there. We are going to talk about this in a little while, and I think we kind of put the flexibility in here. We wanted to show you numbers like, hey, if we do have to continue, this is probably what this looks like. You know, we've got a project that we need to build. But basically our goal was we're going to kind of do it sequentially, right? We're not going to go and just jam in 25 high capacity charging stations. We're going to start with 2, and then and this assumes nothing changes, right? This assumes nothing changes. But as of now, we have one 3/4 ton that needs to be replaced in this coming fiscal year, and that forces us to comply with the CARB mandate. It forces us to have one electrical vehicle offset. So, and when we get to 27, if nothing changes, it's 100%. It's every vehicle you buy has to be heavy duty, medium duty, heavy duty has to be electric, which they don't exist yet. So we're not sure exactly how that's going to all work out. And again, there's some legislation that's trying to be pushed right now that would help us along these lines. But I think at this point we have to assume, and we're moving some of this. We're moving forward with SDG&E. They have a program where they'll actually fund everything up to the charging station. So we've already submitted the application. We're kind of in line for them. So they'll bring all the power on site,
So
bring it up to you.
Rates are going.
And so our piece would just be put the charging
The physical.
yeah, put the charging station. So we've put some dollars. Honestly, these are kind of a little bit of we're kind of ballparking at this point, but want to get you prepared if we have to keep marching down this road. There is something here, but we're keeping a close eye on how these different forces may affect the regulation.
Yeah, because the only reason why I read an article that saw everything with the current administration is all about deals. And one of the things that were proposed was, I think California wants whatever it is, $40 billion.
Or the fire relief.
Fire.
Yeah.
For them to get that, then they're gonna have to start changing some of their thought process on some stuff. So
yeah,
that kind of that's what I read. And then the next part was, I was talking to somebody, I was at a gas station and they had those, and they got some money from Tesla. So I don't know if you thought of that, or there's a
that's another thing we have been looking at. The problem with that is they have to be public, so we would have to put them out front. But it is an option we're still exploring, but you would have to basically have the gate open to the public 24/7 and provide access. Have to be a public charging station. So yeah. So again, right now we've kind of plugged in, hey, if we have to do this back of house, we think this is what something like that looks like. Again, the bigger money is out in year 2. Year 1, I think, just allows us to kind of continue the planning and doing those kind of things. So that's what we've got.
Director Hoffman, did you still have a question?
It's just like, this doesn't go like 2045.
They want to be 100% by 2035, I think.
100%.
Yeah, 100% with the.
Don't want to do it. You can't just pay for all that, like 34, so we have to be planning ahead, but it's like to be determined. But then this administration is not going to be there forever, and then it could go
The other
back.
question,
Yeah.
So,
The biggest problem you have right now is that what they've mandated, you can't buy. So they've said
Yeah.
you have to have it,
Legislate,
but
then
there's no support.
It is.
okay.
It
'cause
is.
I need that explained, but I was like, I'm not in support of this, but then after reading it, it's actually helping
Yes. Yes.
appeals process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all clear as mud on this one now. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing my job then. Okay, the water and wastewater master plan. This project has some money in the current year and then in year 1 where we hope to finish the project. This will be RFP will be launched on the street here in the very near future. So this is ongoing, and this is both a water and wastewater master plan, which includes hydraulic modeling. Any questions on potable before we move on to wastewater? Okay, the wastewater projects, as we showed in the graphs at the beginning, we have 2 for year 1. The first one is the replacement of 3 obsolete emergency generators. One of the 3 is currently out of commission. It actually broke the two remaining obsolete. We just can't find the parts for. This is, there's an asterisk there because, we did,
So they're running, but if they break, they're dead.
correct.
Okay.
We do have the asterisk for the grant funding. We have the grant with the EPA. That process is moving extremely slow, but it is there. It is earmarked.
It didn't get dode.
It has, we have not received official word that this has been redacted in any way, shape or form. So it is still there. We're working on it, but the money is not in the bank yet.
Okay.
That's what we're waiting on this one. And then the second sewer project, this is North River Road. So if the board will call, all of our sewer ultimately flows down North River Road westbound to where we turn it over to the city of Oceanside at a flow meter. And then it goes to the city of Oceanside's wastewater treatment plant. That said, this mostly gravity main, all the section that's shown in red is gravity main, is ran at what we call a pressurized level. It's not high pressure, but it's pressurized, whereas gravity main should run at about spring line or even lower than that. So this main is undersized. It runs a little flat for us. So this is ultimately, again, this is where everything goes. We want to upsize and replace that section of wastewater pipeline.
Yeah, in the year one, what we're proposing here, again, this is a lot driven by growth. As we take on more connections, then we need to move on this thing. The year one is really, we did a study a few years ago that kind of analyzed all these and how big do they need to be and those kind of things. But it was kind of high level. And so what we wanted to do kind of in this first year is really boil down to what is this project, right? Are we extending the force main? Are we pipe bursting the existing because the clay line? So it's kind of getting into the nitty gritty details of exactly what we want to do with this sewer pipeline.
Didn't we reline this? Did we reline it in total? Just a section?
Majority.
Section.
The majority of it.
Section.
Yeah, we had some, Robert kind of brought me up to speed on that, but.
Are there alternatives to replacement that have been looked at and examined?
I think that.
For example, changing it from a gravity main to a full force main?
That's what we're talking about here.
That's exactly what the year 150,000 is, to really study what is this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about.
And the reason is I remember Robert telling us that there's sections of that pipe that are 35 feet underground.
Correct.
Yeah, there's some deep sections. The good news is, and this is kind of, there is some other, I would say, not complications, but there's some other things to explore here. Right now, the city of Oceanside, way down on the west end of this is where that development is occurring. It's North River Farms.
Yeah.
Right
Nobody
now,
will be taking North River Road when that opens up.
yeah, right now, that's actually our section of sewer. There's about a 2,600 feet of sewer that fronts that development. The developer's tasked with actually upsizing and replacing that entire, and it'll actually be turned over to the city of Oceanside. Our meter will come back to Wilshire instead of at Stallion. It'll come back about a half a mile to Wilshire. This is a good thing. We're getting part of the pipeline replaced, not at our cost. There's still about half of this pipeline that fronts the city of Oceanside service area. So I had discussions with the previous director of water utilities, and who unfortunately is not there any longer. They're recruiting for that position. But I think there's some discussions there on maybe how we work that out, because if development continues down that corridor, ultimately those are city of Oceanside customers. And so, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to replace another half mile or more of pipeline.
It's likely to be developed all the way up to in our area.
It could be. And I think
in the last year, the big nursery that was right there at the corner of
Party. Yep.
Was that Party?
Yep.
Okay.
They sold.
It.
Yeah. 300 plus acres. That's actually my GM report. You're stealing my thunder.
Oh.
No. But anyways, I think there's a lot of nuances here, and that's really why we wanted a little bit of fun.
As long as study, because I remember Robert saying the cost to replace that pipe is going to be just astronomical because of the depth.
So a lot to dig into there, but we need to start moving, because this is project one as that growth starts to exceed our capacity.
You mentioned it's the existing 15-inch and you're going to up to what? What size?
Well, again, TBD. We have
Yeah.
thoughts, but that's what we really want
Yeah.
to
Well, the
focus
thing
and
is,
study
if
on.
we can line it and use it as a force main, we may be able to meet the next 20 years of requirements.
So we're looking for some creative ways to
Creative
get the additional capacity because it is a
Okay.
long stretch.
So that's what the 50K
Yeah.
is for, and
Yeah.
2 years, 2 and 3 or more for placeholders.
I put the year 3 number together. So if it's wrong, you can blame me.
It's
I
a
put,
placeholder right now.
I did, and
Anticipation.
but I did it based on, hey, we're upsizing this pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That
Okay, thank you.
concludes the first year CIP. Any questions from the board?
Good job.
No, thank you. It's listed as an action, but I don't think we're asking the board to take action. correct?
I think it would probably just, we take board direction. That's it. If this is good to move on, we're going to incorporate it into the budget and that's it.
So are we voting on it or not?
Sure.
Well, I have an additional question that in your CIP project, you've identified only 7 pipeline replacement projects. And in this fiscal year, it's less than 30% of the total CIP budget specified. I'm under the impression that we have a lot more pipeline that needs to be replaced than that.
We do.
So I'm a little concerned that we're doing more all the operational maintenance type of addresses and not.
Well, I think like we showed in that first slide, 85% of the total budget. Now, some of that is rehab of pump stations. The 5% was what you're talking about, right? When the project we're going to talk about next, that was in that operational efficiency bucket. So 85% of that 40 something million is all replacement and rehab. We actually pulled several pipeline replacements up into the 5-year CIP. They are pricey. And I think the big thing was, and this was when we put that 5-year plan together, these first couple of years we had to keep pretty lean. But originally it was year 4. Now it's moved up to year 3. That's where you start to see some of those big projects come in, primarily because we have some debt that's falling off the books. And so the ability to kind of super fund some of the projects that we've been waiting to do. And that includes the Eagles Perch, the Gopher Canyon, some of these really high priority pipeline replacements that do eat up, when you look at that whole 5-year window, it eats up the majority of the budget.
I think my concern isn't that we don't have enough focused on pipeline replacement. It's more anticipating how do you deal with the contingencies of another Gopher Canyon? Because we have these aging pipelines, we're suddenly forced into a pipeline replacement project that really wasn't budgeted for, so something's going to get kicked out.
Yeah.
I hate to see us being sort of in reactionary mode versus being able to say, okay, here's my CIP budget. These are what I'm going to do, but the bottom 3 here are expendable for emergency purposes, or something like that, just so that we've taken into consideration in our brain, in our thought processes and in management, how to deal with those Gopher Canyon situations.
Yeah. And it's a great point. I think a lot of that has to deal with, obviously having adequate reserves, having some adequate reserves where you can come
I
in.
know we're on the cusp there.
Yeah. And so, we're working on it.
Yeah.
But I think, we do that every year, reprioritizing and there are always things, hey, we can move this back and move this up. We have the ability to do that, but there are a lot of those projects that are in this 5-year are things that have already been kind of pushed back that we're really,
We've delayed
trying
for
to
way too long.
trying to stick to this 5-year plan that we had and that kind of thing. And we actually, some of the stuff that, I mentioned before, the cost of our anticipated costs on some of the county water authority items really got reduced. And so that's actually what allowed us to take the Sarah Ann pipelines, the Palo Mesa Fairways pipelines, and actually bring those into the 5-year, they were kind of beyond that 5-year window and still fit within that 44 million that we were anticipating on doing over 5 years. So I think we're doing what we can to get those in there. I mean, yeah, I think we're all in the same. I guess that was my point too, bringing that 85%. I think we're all on the same page that this is our mission right now is to, we've got rehab and replacement to do, and that is the primary focus of the district.
Okay. Since it doesn't have a recommendation, I would like to propose a motion that we encourage staff to continue their planning as in refinement of the 5-year plan. So that's the motion. Is there a second? Second, moved by Director Hamilton, second by Director Irvine. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Consider approval of agreement with Dexter Wilson Engineering for the design of the Gopher Canyon Pump Station Project Division 1. This was an item that was carried over from last meeting.
That is correct. And the board hopefully had the opportunity. Staff rewrote the memo almost entirely, really walking through a timeline of when detachment was first proposed to present day. So that background really expanded, and we learned a lot as staff that's how the board memo should have been written the first go round. With that, we also heard from the board that additional information was requested on this in the form of a PowerPoint. So we have that prepared for you as well. No problem. All right. So again, this is the motion before the board is to award a design contract to Dexter Wilson in the amount of $220,000. We're going to walk you through why we need this design effort. So prior to detachment, these are the connections that Rainbow Municipal Water District had. We had some from Metropolitan, and the red ones, 7, 6, 3, and 11 in the red section were the San Diego County Water Authority. And as you can see now, there it goes. We no longer have those service connections. These are gone. We are taking all of our water from the north quadrant of the district and pushing it all the way to our most southern boundary. Okay, so we're going to talk about the supply reliability. So the almost 3.5 mile pipeline from the Dentro de Lomas pump station to the Gopher tank, it's only available when it's not pumping to the Turner tank. The Dentro de Lomas pump station, which was on your consent calendar for the notice of completion, its intent is to offset supply to the Turner tank. When we had that emergency repair in Gopher Canyon and we upsized the section of pipeline, it then became able to also pump to Gopher. However, there was talk at the last board meeting about, we were talking in hypotheticals and theories. This actually happened in January of 2025 over the Martin Luther King holiday weekend, where staff is off, district is closed, and we had a main break. Taking out the Dentro de Lomas pump station cannot physically pump to the Gopher tank. We have a video here, or actually an image first. So where the yellow circle is kind of in the bottom center of the page there, that's about where the main break was. It's in the Vista Valley Country Club golf course. Had it not been for the temporary pump skid that we ran the pump test for, which is also talked about in your staff report, had it not had that temporary pump station there, the Gopher tank would have went dry and all customers fed by the Gopher tank would have been without water. This repair effort was a 3-day, 24/7 operation. So we're not talking 4 or 6 hours out of water. We're talking 3 full days out of water. And then actual footage from Martin Luther King weekend. Again, we're calling in crews that are scheduled off, district is closed. Actually dealing with Lilac fire started, so they're part of the evacuation area. We can take tours after. So again, had that temporary pump skid where we did the 1-year pump test, had it not been there, we would have been in horrible, horrible position for this. Each year prior to detachment, the Water Authority has a scheduled aqueduct shutdown, and each year the district rented temporary pumps, ran on diesel generators. We have actual photos of these No Photoshop. This is Rainbow Water District. This is how we did year after year to do this. These are right on the sides of roads. These are adjacent to homes. They are loud. They are not, they're secured with temporary chain link fencing. Staff has to go out there consistently to refuel them. They take days, if not weeks, to set up and break down. We knew this was coming. So even had the district stayed with the San Diego County Water Authority, we were building the pump stations that were just approved for the notice of completion today, regardless, to avoid these situations. This was an annual ongoing thing we had to do.
My first year on the board, we had a $320,000 diesel fuel
Yeah.
bill to run those pumps.
Yes.
When you shut down, when do you rent those?
So if I go all the way back to slide number 1. So anytime the water authority, that section in red, was
Okay.
working on its aqueduct and
Okay.
taking it out for scheduled maintenance,
Oh,
we had to rework the water to do what those pump stations are now doing.
In other words, we put in the temporary pump stations where the permanent pump stations are now to move water from the north down to the southern region because the aqueduct was shut down. So in 2016, 2017, that became a priority for that the board directed to engineering is let's look at replacing these temporary pumps with permanent pumps because it was such a regular issue. And when you considered the cost of the rental, the labor to install and tear down, the operating cost, I mean, just like I said, fuel oil alone was over 300,000 in the 2018 cycle, 2017 cycle. It was like, God, you're going to be able to justify a capital improvement project real quick on these things.
Yep.
You know, detachment accelerated the program.
Correct. All right, so we put in the staff report again. We had always planned on building, the names changed. They used to be the Hutton, Turner, Dentro was it, but the Weiss pump station, which we've had members of the public also speak about. Weiss was always a part of our detachment to get water to our gopher tank. As that progressed, it became abundantly clear that the Weiss pump station was not going to happen. And so we went back to our design engineer and our hydraulic modeler to start looking at alternatives. One of those alternatives was upsizing an existing pipeline between our 3 southern tanks, the Gopher tank, the Hutton tank, and the Turner tank. Just at quick back of the napkin math, this was penciling out over $20 million. It also required crossing the water authority's aqueduct easement. It wasn't going to happen. So the next one was the Gopher pump station. If we're not going to get the Weiss pump station and we have to get water to our Gopher tank, how are we going to do that? Hence the Gopher pump station, the 1-year pump test that just concluded. This is a scale back. This is again the project that we just accepted. So you have your West Lilac pump station pumping to your Hutton tank, your Rancho Amigos, and your Dentro de Lomas pump station pumping to your Turner tank. We don't have one of these pumping to the Gopher tank right now. That is why we need the Gopher pump station. That is why we need Dexter Wilson to design this pump station for us. So we do have a temporary pump skid out there. That is your Turner tank. That's where it's getting its water from. That's the location of the temporary pump station itself. And we have some photos. So instead of aerial, now you're looking at the pump station. Again, we have some temporary chain link fencing with some barbed wire fence. We ran temporary power poles to it. We put down some 3/4-inch rock just to kind of level the site out. We ran this pump test for 1 year. And it was during that time where we really realized this could be a hub, not just a pump station that takes water from Turner and gives it to Gopher. This could actually take from Turner and go to any tank if the right piping. And that's why we had that design dollar amount increase. And again, that summarizes what I just said, which is also in the staff report. This is the existing Huntley Gomez pump station. This was built decades ago. This is not what we build today. This is exposed obviously to just normal elements, but I mean, in the event of a fire, you can see the operations department installed just some Rainbird sprinkler heads up there that in the event of fire, we can go manually turn on, and it really does drop the temperature. It's not going to make it where the fire doesn't affect it, but it's a help deterrent. But what we tried to design today is something like this. This is your West Lilac pump station. This is a full enclosure. All of that electrical gear that is tens of thousands, if not $100,000, it's now protected inside. The site is secure with wrought iron fencing. It has its own power source. You can see the graded pad up top. If everyone on staff level had their way, there would be an emergency generator sitting right there. It just wasn't in the budget to do it. So there's a pad there for it. And then the request before the board today, which is option 1 in the staff memo, is to award the design contract to Dexter Wilson. The funding was approved. There is no additional allocation being required at this time. We will continue throughout this design process. I think it was an 11-month process, I think, to go after grant funding and alternatives and all of those different things. But we really do need to get this design underway.
Okay.
With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
I thought in the last one, I really wanted to hear from our finance director. I really wanted to see what our finances are. If that's okay or no.
Yeah, well, we've gone through the CIP, and I think that was actually also kind of part of the, looking at this thing holistically, right? Where do all these projects kind of live within our originally planned CIP? And I think with the adjustments we've made, and again, this wasn't us pushing out pipeline replacements and pushing out pump station rehabs. We actually pulled it in. We found savings elsewhere. This project is in there. It's in that 5-year CIP. Now the construction's in year 3, but again, fits within that same $44 million window that we had planned for. And so basically the overall financial plan hasn't changed. Again, this project we do believe it's going to be a little more expensive than we thought. It's going to do more than we had originally envisioned. But as far as the overall financial picture, this is in there. It's part of that, again, that OEI, the 5% of the CIP. This is part of that.
And what I heard Chad say is rather than just supplying water to Gopher Canyon, it basically provides us with some redundancy.
Correct.
That we don't necessarily have in the existing system.
Taking water where you have it to where you need it.
Whereas had the WES progressed, it would
It'd be different.
straight to the Gopher tank, and that is it.
Yeah.
So less functional.
And if I'm not mistaken, this design contract was already approved in the budget year that we're in
Correct.
right
That is
now
correct.
by the previous board of directors.
Correct.
So we're approving what they already approved in the budget.
Essentially.
Any other questions, discussion? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I would recommend we approve the agreement with Dexter William Engineering.
And I'll second. That's moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Hamilton. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Review and consider fiscal year 2025-2026 water sales projections.
Yes, and as we obviously CIP is a huge part of the budget, but this is another key piece that goes into our budgeting process is, how much are we forecasting that we're going to sell in the next fiscal year. And so just wanted to run through a little bit of historical and kind of where we're proposing to set this number for the 25-26 fiscal year budget. So yeah. So a couple of just graphs for you. These are our water demands. And again, this was in the same table that's in the staff report. Over the last, I think this is 7 years. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 7. And look back, that seemed to be kind of the best history. I think if you go back further, that obviously the numbers get much higher. We've had a decline in sales over the years, but interestingly enough, obviously this year we're seeing a rebound, and that is projection there at the end of the 24-25. We still have a few months left, but it looks like we're going to land somewhere between 12 and 13,000. Could, again, stays cool, stays wet, could be a little lower if it continues kind of dry and hot. We would expect that maybe goes a little bit higher, but based on all our history and even recent history, it looks like that's where we're going to end up. And so if you go to the next slide. And really a lot of that's driven by, it's been a very dry year here. We've only had about 8 inches of rainfall. And that's been concentrated over a couple of days. You know, we've had some some heavy days. And so, so we have seen a pretty good uptake in demand. Where again, we're looking probably somewhere in the, 12,000 or so, but again, a very dry year. You can see the last 2 years, we had consecutive very wet winters that drove down demand. The first year, and then even further that second year, we had a cool summer followed by a wet winter. And I think we even there was a hurricane that rolled through in August in that same year that quelled some demand. But we have seen it rebound this year. And so I think we're starting to see a pattern. It's hard to say where it's going to go. But I think, this shows, again, that 7-year history, the blue line there, that's the rainfall. So you can see, obviously, our customers react to weather very much so. And then you can kind of see, over the last 3 years, kind of where we land. That yellow line, I drew that at 11,000 acre feet, and that's what we're actually proposing. So last year when we were budgeting, we budgeted at 10,000, and that's what we had just seen, right? We had just seen basically the 23, 24 year. We knew that's where we were going to kind of end up. But I think it really was driven, a lot by weather. I think we still, not that the trend is still downward if you look at the overall trend. But again, with this projection, what we're trying to do is balance where we think we're going to be, right? And so, we've kind of got a little bit of a gauge on that with this year, where you've got, a dry year, again, 8 inches of precipitation. Looks like you're going to be somewhere 12, so probably a little higher than your normal, if it was kind of more of an average year. Previous year, a little bit lower. And so, so that's what we've proposed this year is 11,000 acre feet. If you want to go to the next slide. The other thing we looked at was, what can also drive lower, curtailment of demand is any mandates that come from the state. If there's drought conditions or things like that. We don't see that for 25, 26. We have reservoirs across the state that are well above average for this time of year, including your very large reservoirs, the Oroville's and Trinity and Shasta, the ones that are feeding the state water project. In addition to that, Diamond Valley Lake, which kind of backstops all of this region, is completely full. About 800,000 acre feet in Diamond Valley Lake. And so we don't see over the next year, the graph on the right there, that's actually the snowpack for this year. So that's what's feeding the state water project. About 30% of the state's demands. It's the frozen reservoir up in the Sierras. And as you can see, we're right about an average year, about 90, I think it's 96%. It's hard to read from here, probably 97. Okay. So right about an average year. So what you have is very full reservoirs and a average snowpack. And so I think our prospects for drought in this coming fiscal year are low, very, very low. It would likely take a couple of dry years, again, in the northern areas to drive something like that. So really we're not proposing any kind of an adjustment to projected water sales based on that either. So anyways, based on the information that we gathered and kind of where we sit this year compared to the last couple of years, we feel like that 11,000 acre foot is a good middle ground for where we would expect water sales to be in an average year. We can never predict exactly what the weather is going to be. So it could be a little wetter. It could be a little drier. There are budget impacts based on this, right? As we make these projections, right? It's sales and it's import water purchases. So if we miss on the projection, if sales are lower, it does have a net revenue impact to us. And obviously if we sell a little bit more, there's a positive net revenue. But really what we're trying to do is establish a reasonable water sales projection. Yeah. And without kind of that consideration, that's really what we're after. So anyways, that's kind of staff's analysis on this thing, and we're open to any feedback or questions that the board might have.
I have one. Again, hypothetically, since it looks like we're going to be selling more water than we anticipated, Does that also mean since now we're going our water from Eastern, we should have a bigger profit? Or no?
Well, it's all, I mean, it's all higher sales drives higher revenue. It also drives higher import purchases. Again, it's really more against what we budgeted for, right? We had already budgeted that we were buying Eastern water. That was last year, you know, when we had budgeted for January 1st, we finished a little early, which was a bonus. But we budgeted for January 1st. So we knew what the purchase price was going to be on that water. The net revenue will be a little greater, but really that spread is still the same, really. But it is positive. It is positive. It's been a good year as
But
far
that
as
can-
water sales.
That little bit can help go into reserves or whatever.
Yeah, or help fund CIP, you know, yeah, all those things. Yeah. Hey, there's more.
Just for clarification, where is San Luis Reservoir?
Yeah, so that's a really good, that Met puts.
Summary, yeah.
Yeah, Met puts that out. The reason San Luis Rey is so critical and why it makes that list is that's the big reservoir that sits just south of Bay Delta. So when they when they're able to pump water through the Bay Delta, when they don't have the fish restrictions and those kind of things, it actually goes into San Luis Rey, and that's what's feeding Southern
The
California.
State Water Project.
So when Diamond Valley's good and San Luis Rey's,
Very
then you've got a good situation there for Southern California. If it's sitting up in Oroville, sometimes
You can't get it.
there's restrictions there, and it doesn't. It's always a good thing
Yeah.
having the storage of.
Oroville has to come through the Bay Delta and
does.
you have all sorts of constraints on that.
But once it gets to that reservoir, then it's home free.
Yeah, I was curious about that. And Director Mack and I were talking about this earlier, you know, we're sitting pretty right now with Met's water storage being pushing 90% almost across the board.
Yeah, it is. We're in a good spot as far as the import supply. Yep.
Okay.
So the 11,000 acre feet, it is a 10% increase from
Last year.
From last year. So it does provide, I'll just say that it does provide less pressure on rates and things like that. But I think really we were just trying to come up with a very reasonable projection
For budgeting.
where we think we're at. Yeah, where we actually think we're at.
Any additional discussion or questions?
Yeah, go back, sorry to keep on asking them. When the previous CFO, we did that, I think it was a 5-year projection, right? And again, hypothetically, if water sales go up 10%, right, then wouldn't our reserves go up 10%?
Well, again, it's not a direct correlation, but there is net revenue impact. Yes, it's positive to. I think we had ran the numbers when we were up about 1,200 acre feet. We were projecting, we might, I think we were thinking maybe 11.2 instead of the 10 we budget 11.2, and I think the net revenue positive impact was about 700,000. So
Good thing.
yeah.
And that would be per month.
No, that's
No,
a year.
per year.
That's a whole year. Yeah. It's not that good.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. But it is, but there's always years, again, even if you look at that, like you're that 11,000, last year we would have been under, right? But over time, if you're in the right spot, those things should balance out.
Our concern is that we've been very, very poor at grazing in the crystal ball over the last 7 years. In fact, as I recall, the 10,000 number was against a recommendation of our 11.5 or
Yes,
12.
I think the board lowered it. Yeah.
And we lowered it because
Yeah.
we were just, and we just barely squeaked in at 10.
Right.
So
Yeah. And I think for 3 straight years, you kind of saw that, you had the weather, so that had definitely had an impact. So that's where I think we have a little bit of confidence here. It maybe it's fleeting, but there's a little bit of confidence here because we have seen a dry year with a rebound. And so, there's, and I think we've seen,
well, considering where we are now versus where we were in the last 2 years.
Yeah. If you see that, our water purchases, they crested the 5-year average.
Yeah.
So it's, it's definitely, it's still there to some degree.
With some margin possibly.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Hamilton to approve the 11,000 acre feet annual budget for water purchases. Consider support of Senate Bill 4,
Vote.
sorry. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Consider support of Senate Bill 496, advanced clean fleet modification.
Right, so we're gonna talk some more about trucks. This deals directly with the Advanced Clean Fleets rule. This is the electrification push by CARB in the state. And but it did take effect January 1, 2024. So this is a legislation that's in effect that requires the 1-to-1 electric vehicle purchase until 2027, and then 100% after that is how it's currently written. This bill that was introduced, and this is being co-sponsored or supported by a CSDA who's making a hard push for a lot of water districts to get behind this and support it.
A lot of special districts that have heavy equipment.
Yeah, it impacts everybody, and it's got a couple of kind of main goals. Probably the biggest one for us is establishing that we have vehicles that are emergency response. That we respond to water main breaks and fires that break out in our service area and those kind of things, and we have to have the reliable vehicles that can work around the clock basically until those emergencies are fixed, until they're solved. Right now, the vehicle code really just focuses as police and fire. And so this bill really aims to get us some exemption from the electric vehicle mandate to deal with, the portion of our fleet that really needs to be emergency response. That's probably the biggest one that this aims to do. There's another piece of this. It establishes an appeals advisory committee. So there is exemptions. You can file for, I'm going to buy a new dump truck. The only one that they make goes 10 miles uphill. It doesn't work for us. We need an actual, a diesel or a gas powered or other, that just for an example. If that gets denied by CARB, then there's a committee that actually reviews these appeals. It's just a second process that it has to go through. So I think they're looking for a little bit more of a third party to really evaluate these things. And then there's some other modifications, daily usage exemption and things like that, really all beneficial. These are targeted towards helping special districts comply with the mandate in a way that's reasonable. And so staff is recommending that there's a letter that we'd like to send. There was a template, kind of a form letter that CSDA was recommending. We made a couple of adjustments just based on our own desires, but pretty much stuck with a template. But we would like to send our letter of support for this bill to our senators and local representation to let them know that we support this.
Any questions or discussions?
Just a comment. I mean, this is the type of unintended consequences that these draconian mandates have on ratepayers. Constantly get beat up by our constituents on issues of fixed rates and how they keep going up. And this is the problem, when we put people in power that put these draconian mandates on it, it ultimately all trickles down to the ratepayer, and then people scream bloody murder at the districts as to why our fixed water rates are going up, and yet continue to have these elections and we keep putting people in place that put these mandates on us. And I think it's just important to note that there are things that are outside the district's control that put pressure on those mandates, but unfortunately it's in the hands of the people in Sacramento that we can continue to keep in power, and hence we can continue to have to eat those additional costs.
I second that.
This would be like the FAQ thing. Like if this happens, I mean, people have no idea that it takes energy to get the water to where on the top of my hill, you know?
Well,
They don't understand how water moves.
where's all the electricity going to come from to charge all those fleets?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of issues. So this is
Okay.
a step in the right direction is our hope. Yeah.
At least it moves it out to, hopefully moves it out to a practical implementation
Yeah.
strategy as opposed to do it now. Is there any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Director Hoffman, seconded by Director Irvine. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Information items, operations report. Nothing? Engineering report. Chad, do you have anything to add? Administrative services report. Okay, finance report. Constantine, you said all you can say. Okay. Reports and comments, general manager's report.
Yeah, a few things. Amanda mentioned this, but there is a wildfire symposium that's being planned. That's North County Fire, CAL FIRE, FPUD, Rainbow, and our own Mr. Gutierrez will have a short window to present at that symposium. It's on a Saturday at Fallbrook High School. That's May 3rd, but happy to participate in that. I think we've got a lot of kind of exposure on some of that response, and so having Robert go and kind of tell what his team does, I think is a good look for the district and really things people should know, right?
Yep.
Things that people don't normally know. Myself and Amanda Weber met with ICE's office on it was last Thursday, the 20th, about potential more grant funding that comes through what they call their community funding projects. We pitched 3 projects. One is that generator for the Lilac pump station. The second heli hydrant, so the location that was identified up at Gomez, and then also pitched a pipeline replacement project as a means to getting some more hydrants and fire flow to people, but also replacing pipelines. And so we took about I think it was $2.8 million worth of projects in, kind of figuring that they might say, submit 2 out of 3 or something like that. They love the projects. They told us to submit all 3. So doesn't mean we're for sure going to get it, or we'll see how the whole federal budget season goes and all that. But they were definitely excited about the projects and wanted us to put all of them in. So we are going to do that. I wanted to let the board know CSDA sent out that they have a seat open in, I think it's, did I write this down? I can't remember if it's seat B or seat C, but each zone has 3 basically seats, A, B, and C. I think this is C, that is open for nominations right now. The deadline to apply is April 11th. Voting happens in June or July. I have a whole information sheet if you're interested. We can get you all that, but they did indicate that the incumbent, who is Dawn Bartz from Phelan Hills Community Services District, is running for re-election. But obviously, if there's any interest there, the deadline's Friday, April 11th, and we can help you if anybody's interested.
Is that an online application if you're interested? And does that require that doesn't require any board approval?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. It's open to any, sitting board member, GMs. I will not run against you if you choose to. I'll just tell you that. But
okay. So it's staff as well.
Only the GM,
Oh.
GM and board.
Board,
Those are those are the eligible ones. So anyways, but me and Therese can help. But I send you the link and do all that if anybody is interested in putting their hat in the ring on that. Covers a very large service area. That there's only 6 zones in all of California, and the southern zone is basically all of Southern California. Everything south of Ventura, LA, Orange, San Bernardino, Riverside, Imperial, San Diego, all those counties. So it's a pretty large area that's served.
And we've never seen or heard from the current rep.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he's been on for a while. I was going to mention, we do have a lot of development activity, and I'd mentioned this at one of the committee meetings. Ocean Breeze Ranch is moving forward. They actually are in front of the Planning Commission in April. And it's been pretty hot around here. Citro is still building. They have about 100 units or so left to build. So we're seeing those meters and sewer connections come through the door pretty frequently. The Havens, all 59 units of their phase 1 is under construction. All the meters, residential meters, have been requested by them. So got some pretty good development activity going on. I was going to mention the Pardee properties. We are keeping an eye on what's going on out there. There was about 310 acres that were sold right off of North River Road. Multiple parcels, but bought by the same entity.
Where is that in development stage? Do we know? Is it just, they just purchased it?
They
So
just
that
purchased
maybe
it,
we
yeah.
work in the land
So
use.
we haven't heard anything yet, but definitely keep an eye on it with the other
Let's put it
development
this way.
going on.
I don't think it will stay agriculture.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not forever. That was a big nursery though. Paula Ranch is still moving forward. They've ran into some hiccups though. That's the commercial / homes development right over by Palomar College. Palomar College is building a new facility, a 40,000 square foot student center and classrooms and kitchens and all kinds of stuff. So we just got wind of that as well, but they started construction out there across from Horse Creek. There's also some potential. We know there's some different lots over in Citro and Horse Creek that could potentially turn into development. I know they're looking at rezoning or repurposing some of these lots. One of them was slated for it was a potential school site that they're not sure is going to move forward. And
College.
no,
it's
that
high
was,
school.
or elementary school or was the thought, but I think it was just kind of set aside. But if that falls through, then my understanding is they're going to try to build some additional units there. So there may be some more that goes on over there too, but quite a bit of activity happening right now. We'll see if it continues.
Question on the that shopping center that was gonna be near Horse Creek.
Mhm.
I thought the representatives said they might break ground in September of this year. Is that kind of?
They've been delayed. They have an issue with it's transportation and flood, both storm drain and both of those issues are kind of interrelated, but they're kind of stuck with Caltrans is what's happening. And so
Is that the northeast corner of 76 and 15?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. They actually have a little bit on the south side too. There's development on the north side and a little bit on the south there too, by Pinky's property there. Crop swap still cranking along. We have a lot of projects that are actually being completed. If you drive down 15 near Camino del Rey, just south of Camino del Rey, you'll see a whole bunch of new planting up there. That was 2 different crop swap projects. They replanted fresh avocado rootstock. And so we're seeing a lot of those actually start to move through. To date, there's 86 total projects in the district service area, a little over $1 million, 1.043 in grant funding that's allocated to those projects. So that's just passing through from the grant through the district to our agricultural customers. So that's a good thing. I think the last time I checked, we had 15 projects that were completed and fully reimbursed, and then more that were kind of moving their way through.
Any chance for additional funding coming that direction?
Yeah, we're actually chasing some funding through the USDA. And so we have all 6 of us kind of contributed. We have somebody that's actually moving on that now. So we're trying to re-up those dollars now because we have, what did we have? About the same. It was about 10 or 15 projects that were actually on a wait list for us. So I think those will eventually get funded one way or another, but we would like to see see some additional funding there. And it's obviously been very successful here. So I'll save that for that. One thing I forgot to mention last month, and we approved that agreement with Peralt for the materials processing, and I failed to mention that it was actually Robert that did like 99% of that whole effort, and I didn't even mention his name when I was talking about it. I was just focused on getting it completed. I
We're
was
just doing his job.
I was excited. I was excited about it, but I just want to make sure I give Robert. He did a ton of work on that, and I think it's a fantastic agreement. It's working out really well. So anyways, a month late. Last thing I'll mention, the mutual services agreement that we approved last month with Fallbrook and Valley Center. We started moving on one piece of that, which is our state and federal lobbyist. Currently, Rainbow doesn't have any state or federal lobbyists. We had some more local folks that were focused on one particular issue. That all those contracts are now gone. So it wouldn't be any budget impact to us, but actually we'll have some representation to, I mean, the primary thing is chasing additional grant funding. They're very good at that. And the good thing is we're all four kind of committed to, working together. So we all share the costs basically. So kind of lowering those costs, but really hoping, we all have very similar interest as far as, we want to chase pipeline replacements and crop agricultural programs and things like that. And so we'll bring those back to you. We are kind of packaging up some RFPs to get a feel for cost and who we'd like to see do those services for us. Also really comes in handy when you have things like these CARB mandates and things like that, kind of pushing back. If it's just Rainbow, not that it doesn't matter, right? It does, but when you have a large conglomerate of agencies now that all are saying the same thing to the same person, just carries a lot more weight. So I think that's going to be a good thing for us. But anyways, you'll see those as they come through, and they'll come through for approval. So I think that's it.
Cool. Legal counsel report.
Thank you, President Hamilton. I did a written report and update on a recent United States Supreme Court decision involving the Clean Water Act. And it was a divided opinion, 5-4. The justices came down on that one. And it's an important case because it eliminates what they call the end result requirements that are routinely imposed by EPA and discharge permit under the Clean Water Act. And, those are policies that EPA includes essentially where any agency or permit holder, even if you're complying with all the terms of the permits, all the, numerical effluent limits, could still be, liable or subject to an enforcement action if the discharge affects the quality of the water body where the discharge occurred. And in this case, both the city and the county of San Francisco filed suit against EPA saying, these policies are unfair, they're vague, they're unenforceable, would hold the agencies responsible even when they're complying with all the permit terms, and the quality of the water body they're discharging into, it's really beyond the agency's control. They also question how would, EPA or the courts address this where there are, multiple parties discharging into a water body, because here the discharge went from the city and the county's treatment facility into the Pacific Ocean. Right. So,
San Francisco was responsible for the water quality of the Pacific Ocean.
That's exactly what they said. Yeah. Right. And so a number of agencies, cities, counties, they all filed, amicus briefs supporting this, arguing with lower uncertainty and the compliance cost. And EPA should just really be required to have more specific and concrete evidence before they pursue these sorts of enforcement actions. And the Supreme Court agreed. So, this is, I think, a significant case. We were talking more about a lot of these draconian provisions that are out there, both because of the direct impact on the Clean Water Act and also showing just how the current Supreme Court, after that Chevron decision we've discussed before, they're just no longer providing deference to the federal agencies, EPA and others, because EPA got there, this is our longstanding policy. We have all this federal interpretive guidance, but the court said,
no,
nope, still unenforceable. So very notable update.
But it was 5-4. What was the dissenting opinions argument?
They really we're promoting the deference, providing the federal agency, they're still, you know, kind of going with that, kind of the
The federal
pre-certified.
agency has the authority to dictate these regardless.
Mhm, right, and they,
Of common sense.
Like that Amy Coney Barrett said that she understood that the more specific they are, which is what what San Francisco is fighting against, right?
right.
That it was that would be better than a broad, and then you have to go a broad definition, right? And then now it will take longer to get through.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's, yeah, that was the other argument. They were like, you know, if you don't have this, then it's going to end up causing more delay because now EPA is going to go back and probably come back with newer regulations that aren't as specific or something along those lines. And you know, that could be another kettle of squid, so to speak. So
Make the process slower if it
yeah,
could get any slower.
right.
Some more common sense went out the door. Thank you.
Oh, you got it.
Anything to add, Alfred? Board member comments? Anybody? Reports, CSDA.
I'll just mention we had a CSDA quarterly meeting about a week or so ago, and the speaker was from Met. It was quite interesting. I take it for granted the gentleman was kind of doing analysis of projecting what future sales and stuff might be, and a lot of interesting questions from the audience, which seemed like a very good politician. He was I thought, very vague and didn't really get to the point. So, but it was informational. I mean, it's always a positive. That's it.
Anything to report from the LAFCO?
A couple things. They had their public member, commissioner, Harry Mathis. He retired in March. So yeah, I think the longest tenured LAFCO commissioner. And so that is also out for, I believe it's more of a commission appointment. It's only for public members, so it wouldn't be for, you know, anybody, no board member or staff of a special district. But they are recruiting for that. So so it was that. They went over their work plan again, kind of priorities on the work plan. The wholesale water MSR continues to be the top priority, along with Sandag and the health districts. Those are kind of the three big things. They voted on, or they weighed in on their budget, and I think they were looking at about a 7% rate increase. So they collect from all the special districts, everybody they kind of oversee. And they were looking at, it's not a huge budget, but about a 7% increase to that budget. And then they did mention that the potential or the proposed La Jolla detachment from the city of San Diego is moving forward. They were validating, I guess they got the petition signatures to move it forward. They were validating those signatures so that La Jolla is moving forward with.
Be like city?
Yeah, basically detaching from the city of San Diego.
Oh, wow.
They've talked about it in the past, but I think we gave them impetus.
So those were the big things.
Okay. EMWD. The only thing I know to report is that the ad hoc committee, after a lot of telephone calls and schedules and reschedules and schedules and reschedules, actually is meeting tomorrow. So Aqua.
Coming in May, they're having their first spring conference in Monterey. And I'll be attending. I believe most of us all are going to be going. So it should be a good time. It's very, very informational. It's good network.
Yep. Committees, workshops, and seminars and training. Anybody have anything to report there?
Oh, I have one question. Say, Therese, I know you made mention a while back Did we ever get a clarification? Does Mr. Hamilton and I need to go back to training for?
No, you do not.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, that's good news.
Not this year, next year?
They're going to, yeah, because we already have the award in place that we've been awarded with your previous training and there's no time lapsed. They're going to accept that.
No refresher course required. Nice. Any requests to attend upcoming meetings or conferences or seminars that are not only a pre-approved list?
I've been asked to go to the California Avocado Growers at Paula on Thursday. I'll look and see, I'm going to the Farm Bureau too, but yeah, I'll see what I've been asked by a couple people, so I'm gonna go check it out.
Okay,
Okay with you.
any objections? Nope. Go for it.
There was one, I was just trying to find it. Oh, here it is. So the Southern California Water Coalition, which we've been to
Yeah.
a couple of those
been
those
requested.
events. They're having their quarterly luncheon on Friday, April 25th, and Carla Nemeth from the California Department of Water Resources, she's their director of California Department of Water Resources, is their speaker, and it's just up the road at Wilson Creek Winery. So I don't know.
I'd like to go with that.
Sounds good.
Friday, April 25th from 12 to 2.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But it's not on our normal list, so that's why, and I don't think we won't have a board meeting between then and now, so
Yeah.
I figure if we want to get it
Southern
approved now.
What?
Southern California Water Coalition, it's a large group of water agencies that are all part of, the coalition. They do the same kind of stuff. They, legislation and big projects.
Similar to
They-
CSDA, but focused on water.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because I haven't sat through enough meetings to know how you do this. So is that something that you would then, at this meeting approve for directors to attend? Is that?
That's
would that
why I
be the
brought it up.
protocol?
Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit more about how that might be of value to the rainbow ratepayers?
Well, this is Carla Nemeth. It is a good networking event too. I mean, these are, all of our local water agencies participate in these things, all leadership and board. And so it's a good networking event for that. In addition, they actually do usually have really kind of powerful speakers that whether it's education based, like the last time they did a big thing on public relations communication, which was actually really good.
Very good.
This one, Carla Nemeth, likely focused on the Delta conveyance, status on the Delta conveyance and what's going on. So it does, it is
Better
definitely
understanding of Met's involvement.
definitely educational on the metropolitan side and really on kind of statewide issues. And these are issues that actually impact
Impact
us,
us,
right? They
yeah.
move forward on that Delta conveyance. That's a $20 billion project that eventually
Trickle down
reaches our pipes, right? Reaches our pipes. So
along with the cost.
yeah. So, but I want to bring this one up in particular because it was, it does look like it would be very educational for everybody.
And I believe that they had a congressman there the last.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. They usually do. They
Yeah, it
have
was a
speakers.
Pretty
Yeah.
powerful group.
Yeah.
From Aqua.
Later, like he.
Sure.
I'm there.
April? No,
Yeah, April 25th.
no, you're coming back, not from Aqua. Aqua's in
No,
May.
no, no. The,
Leadership.
leadership.
Oh,
academy.
training, yeah.
Looking to.
I want to go.
I would like to go too. I actually have it in my calendar already, strangely enough.
Come back and Give us a
Do you,
run.
Usually we vote on
do
that,
you
right?
vote on
Like,
that as
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
approved
Yeah.
conference or
Any,
meeting?
all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed?
I'm sorry, who motioned and seconded?
Mac and Hayden.
Thank you.
Any other, meetings, conferences or seminars?
Did we vote on mine? I think. so.
Excuse
Oh,
me,
Farm,
Did the motion include?
is there an expense involved or not? Other than, you said it was a luncheon?
No.
A day of service compensation?
California avocado growers. It's a monthly meeting. There's no lunch involved.
You want to go?
I do want
Move
to.
approval?
Second, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Technically, do we need to approve an attendance in of a board member to attend something that's basically has no cost
Well, if,
other than for
compensable,
informational? when we-
if it's compensable, yeah.
Oh,
That's a compensable
that's
meeting.
true.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right.
Yep.
Thank you. Suggested agenda items for the next regular board meeting.
Are we going to, like in maybe June, have the new CFO? Because I really like when the last one gave us an update where we were financially. We're gonna do like that twice a
That's,
year.
I was just gonna mention, in April, we're gonna bring the budget. So,
Okay,
so it's the guy.
that's the man.
Gee, Constantine, hit the ground running, please.
Yeah, that'll be next,
I like slides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not lots of words, lots of pictures. Anything else? Then we're adjourned to closed session. Let's take a
Can I
10
say
min-
something real quick? Because I don't know how it works. But if I want to discuss a couple policies, do I say that, add that, or do I tell Therese later if I want to discuss a couple policies?
I mean, if there's something specific you want to bring up under this, yeah, 13, I mean, which to agendize, I think that would be
to
appropriate.
agendize,
Okay.
yeah.
Or board member comments.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, either
Yeah.
way.
So I don't have to be specific right now.
I mean, if there's something you want to bring.
No, I do.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know yet because I haven't read them.
okay.
Something that Therese got for me and I haven't read them. And so
Yeah.
I'm saying if I want to talk about them next time, it would be under board member comments.
Yes.
Okay.
You could,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or if it's something you want to agendize for the following meeting, that would work too. But
If it
either way,
requires an action. I mean, there's discussion with your board meeting.
Then
your
we can
board
like
members.
table it for the next time if I did
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually board member comments is kind of a chance to daylight thoughts or issues that you want
Okay.
to bring to light to the board. And then if it
And then it.
translates into
Significant
an
action.
action item, then it can be brought back as an agenda item in the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
well said.
Then we're adjourned to closed session. Let's take a 10-minute break and resume at 3:15.
I'm ready, thank you.
Am I ready?
Test,
No, I'm
test.
never ready. Um, resuming open session for the Rainbow Municipal Water District Board of Directors meeting for March 25th, 2024. Coming out of closed session. Council, do we have anything to report?
Thank you, President Hamilton. The board met in closed session to discuss three items. First items, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, two cases. And second category, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Sections 54957.6 and 54957. All three items were discussed and there's no reportable action.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned.